Well, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ayleen, and this is Medicine Walk. And, well, today we're on sort of a different type of thing because we're here at my office. And blessings to my dear friend Michelle, who had some stuff that she needed to take care of. And, I'm really knowing that she's here in spirit. And if she's watching, then hey, and I hope everything is going really, really well. Let's see. So we're attempting to do this live stream, live feed on both Facebook and the YouTube. So it looks like there's an issue with Facebook. So I'm going to try to see if I can pull it up again. And if we can get this live stream going. And otherwise, we will just do YouTube, and everybody on Facebook can come over and watch it on YouTube. But we're going to see if we can give this a shot with my really as much technological expertise as I can manage. It's really interesting because, frankly, I am not unconvinced that elves make all of my computers work, as well as my car, as well as anything else that is a part of my technological world. The one thing that I do have is imagination. So on the off chance that imagining that this thing will work will help it. Have you ever noticed that sometimes if you just like think real hard or focus and it's like, please, 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 please work, and then all of a sudden it'll start working and it'll go, oh, okay, which I knew someone who used to call stuff like that a great moment in the universe. If you were making a left turn and you made it when the light lasted longer than you figured it would in the universe. So just if we can back live on Facebook. And if not, then we will just manage it another way. Okay, let's see if we can get this. Alrighty. So, for those of you on Facebook, and for those of you on YouTube, thank you for your patience. So, today's walk is based on my walk, as they usually are, based on the walk that I took this morning. And I'm going to take off my glasses because it's kind of glary. It's a nice time. It's a quiet time. And I've talked about it before, where me and my dog Sam just kind of hang out together and take a 2-mile round trip walk. That it clears my head in the morning. It helps me to kind of pace myself. It helps me to be in that space of just being, as opposed to having to worry about what I need to do and how I need to do it. It's just there. Have you ever had just a space that you could go into where you could just, and you didn't have to be anything? And that's what my morning walks are. And I was thinking of, when I was young, and I was looking up at the sky, and there were a couple of clouds, and I remembered how much I loved just laying on the grass and looking at the clouds. And maybe I saw a dragon, maybe I saw a castle, maybe I saw a spaceship. And as each of the forms became whatever it was that I wanted to see, I would think of a story around it and imagine myself in it. And I remember how much fun that was. And I remember that sometimes when things ended up being really, really hard and really, really difficult, that I could go into that imaginary world, and at least for that amount of time, I could have fun. And it was gentle. And I just remember that so well. And I miss that sometimes. as you know, we all grow up and, you know, we're told we need to focus on the real world and we need to be present here now. And it's not it's not easy being in the real world sometimes. Have you ever noticed that? That sometimes being the grown up is not the easiest thing to do. So I decided that I needed to get back into using my imagination again. And the stuff that I share are things that have worked for me, and I simply offer them as things that can work for you. You know, maybe just something you haven't thought about in a while. But remember what it was like to imagine. Now, imagining I consider different from, say, if somebody is trying to manifest something and you're visualizing it. To me, there's a difference. Visualizing is focused. It's deciding what you want to happen and creating that imagery. For me, imagination is a little bit different, because while maybe I create the setting, what happens after that just kind of is what happens. I go into it with no expectations. It's sort of like following the white rabbit and finding the hole that leads to Wonderland. Maybe I think it's like, okay, I'm going to picture walking around in a field and I see a white rabbit and it runs and it jumps down a hole. Well, I picture that, but then everything that happens after that just sort of creates itself. And it's all fun, and it's in yeah, very light spirit. And for me, maybe it's that I'm driving along and that all of a sudden I picture part of myself, you know, way in the future at the point that I'm retired and I'm driving an RV around. And, you know, because that's what I want after I retire, which is in right around 12 years. When I've hit my 25-year anniversary as a chiropractor, I'm going to retire. And then I'm going to get myself an RV and I'm going to tool around and I'm going to go visit places. And at that time, I've decided I'm going to have a Rottweiler and his name will be Carl. And Carl and I will travel around the country and drive up into Canada. So when things get heavy here and I think, you know, all of the things that I have to have on my mind, I think about being in the old RV and I think about driving around and watching the sunrise while I'm tooling down maybe part of Route 66 or up in Canada. And for a moment, I just sit back and I imagine that. And I imagine how it feels. And I get into what it is that, how much I'm going to look forward to it and how much I'm going to enjoy being in that moment. And I know it's my imagination. And maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. But in that moment, it's real. It's real for me. And I would guess that there are some places that each and every one of you could go. Maybe it's being on a boat fishing in the middle of a lake. Maybe it's tooling down a French countryside in a sports car with one of those scarves that's flapping behind you. Maybe it's being in the arms of someone who you love that maybe in this life it didn't quite work out with. In the imagination, it's always perfect. That. And, or maybe it's just sitting in front of a fire, drinking some hot chocolate, or climbing to the top of Mount Everest. Nothing has to limit your imagination. Absolutely nothing has to limit your imagination. And if you're going to dream, dream big. So allow yourself to go into that place of imagining, of experiencing, of sharing. You can put anybody you want into that imaginary world. Because I think the imaginary world is important. And I think that we're not spending anywhere near as much time as we need to in it. Thinking about a moment when you're not worried about paying bills. You're not worried about what someone's going to say. You're not worried about your health. You're not worried about anything. And you can just be in that space for a little while. And it's amazing how it rejuvenates to take a little mental vacation. It's like, a bubble bath for the brain, where you just slide into whatever world you want and without attachment, allow yourself to experience it in whatever way you would like for no other reason than it would make you happy. And yeah, you try to keep it to be light things and happy things. And yeah, it may be that you're missing somebody who's passed away. And just for a little while, you can imagine that they're there. And as someone who's lost some folks who were very, very, very special to me, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I can use my imagination to sit with them and to picture them right there. And yeah, sometimes it can lead to some tears, but that's not a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. It allows you to feel connected. It connects you to that moment of grief. It gives it a little bit of a break. If you're really down about, financial situations, or maybe you were in a flood and you ended up with half your belongings or all your belongings just kind of ruined. And if that's true, I'm really, really sorry. And my thoughts and prayers are with you. And I'm sorry you went through that. And sometimes when reality gets so intense, we can take a little mental bubble bath and in our imagination. So maybe you can picture this brand new place that is absolutely perfect and that has all the things that you want in it. And you, even in your imagination, you can imagine thinking back and going, wow, that was really a very hard time in my life, but I made it. Because that's one of the greatest things about imagining the future in whatever way you want it. Because at least for a little while, you can be in that moment. And you can think in the future of how hard that moment was and how you got through it. For me, it's like saying, when I'm going through a hard time, I imagine myself writing my autobiography years in the future. And when I reach the place where I'm at in that moment, the next thing I write is, and that very next day was when everything changed. And I like to think about that, to think that at any moment, no matter what's weighing on me, something could shift and I feel better. I spoke last time about how, I was kind of had some things weighing on me and, kind of going through in my own spirit about something. And a total stranger told me that it really meant a lot to him to see me walking my dog down that road every day. And that shifted everything. And then I was thinking, it's like, wow, maybe in my imagination, I'm making everybody's day really good. And it's sort of like a magical spell that I can do. That just with a smile and a wave, they start their day off good. I can imagine that if I want. We can imagine anything that you want. And yes, eventually we do have to come out of the imaginary world. And we do have to leave Wonderland. And we do have to come back and deal with all of the intense and, maybe not so fun stuff that as grown-ups, we kind of have to take on. And we can go back and visit anytime we want. In fact, we can leave a part of ourselves there all the time. I'm helping out a friend. And so we were talking about imagining. And I said, okay, imagine yourself in an amazing, beautiful place, the place you've always wanted to be. And so she said, okay, she had it. And I asked her to describe it to me. And she described it. I said, okay, now imagine the two of us are there together and we're just walking together. And she smiled and she said, I can imagine that. So we walked and we talked with her in this amazing, beautiful place that she really loved. that took all the stress away. And in that moment, she was at peace. So we reached a point. I said, okay, I want you to imagine that it's time to come back. And she didn't say anything for a second. She said, I don't want to. Why can't I stay here? Why can't I stay in this beautiful place that nothing hurts me and that is always perfect and I'm always perfect in? And I said, okay, I want you to picture your energy. Picture a light around you. And she said she could. I said, now imagine that that light moves right next to you and it's these swirling colors. And as they swirl, they suddenly start to take a form, and the form is you. And you see an exact duplicate of you standing right next to you. And she kind of grinned. She said, okay. I said, now stand there and stare at yourself. Shake hands. And so she did. She imagined it. And I said, okay, that part of you gets to stay here. That aspect of you gets to stay in this beautiful, amazing place all the time. And all you have to do is think about her and you're back there. But you can carry that peace inside of you because she's always still you. But she is you and in this other space at the exact same time. So all you have to do is think about being there, and you're there, and you can take that peace with you. And it took her a little practice, but she was able to do it. And she really, got a lot out of it. And later on, she told me that every time she starts feeling stressed, every time she starts feeling that anxiety come up, when she starts feeling overwhelmed, she just imagines her being where this other part of her is. And she's there. And she said, suddenly, it's like she never left. And it's peaceful and it's quiet, but she's not afraid to leave it because she knows that she never really will. Create that imaginary place, when we create that eye of the storm for ourselves, that place where everything's perfect, where everything's gentle, where everything is exactly what we would like it to be. You can go there anytime. You don't have to be attached to staying in that one space, of staying in that one place. It's not beyond you. It's not, if I leave, I'll never get it back, because it's always inside of you. It's always there. Anytime that I start feeling stressed, right in that moment, I'm in my RV. And my Rottweiler Carl is sitting shotgun. He's right next to me. And we're watching the sunrise on the road. Maybe thinking about where we're going to stop off and have some breakfast. And I see all of the things that I'm going to enjoy. And I can be in that moment, in my imagination. And then when I feel like, oh, okay, I'm feeling a little better now, I feel refreshed, back into the regular world I go, knowing that there's always a part of me that's behind the wheel with Carl. So don't worry about falling into the imagination and not coming back, because it's inside of you. It's an aspect of you. If you want to add visualization to it, you can. You can say, all right, well, this is what I would like. Maybe your imagination takes you to a beautiful little house in the woods, and it's surrounded by trees, and it's near a river, and it's absolutely perfect. And maybe it's that perfect little house that you've always wanted. And so you picture what it'd be like to live there. What does it look like? How is it furnished? What type of trees are around it? Use your imagination to go there and relax. And you can also add a sense of reality to it by, when you leave the imagination, create a vision board maybe, or look up cabins in the woods and see how much they cost or how much it would be for you to find one. So then you can take it from just that little bubble bath for the brain, that little break, in the action, that soft and gentle spot that is fun, that you can just enjoy, and there are fairies and dragons and whatever it is that you would like to see there. And at the same time, you can tell yourself, you know, I can do this. I can have this in my real life. And I know that because when I was at a place where I was going through losing my home, I imagined a beautiful, soft, little world where there was a cabin surrounded by trees near a river that I could listen to all night. And I pictured what it was like inside. And that became something that made letting go of the home that I had a little bit easier, because I told myself, I've got some place to go. I've got an amazing little place. And even if right now it's just in my imagination, that's okay. It makes me feel better. Well, it turned out that's exactly where I ended up, in a cabin surrounded by trees near a river that I can hear all night. So you never know when the world of imagination and this reality, and I use air quotes with reality because that is a whole discussion all in itself, but the accepted reality of right now with bills and taxes and relationship woes and the rain and flooding and all of that stuff, because the real world has some cool stuff. It has rain, but it's got rainbows. It has relationship woes, but it also has love and friendship. It has financial woes, and yet it has those amazing spots where everything falls right and the abundance is just there when you need it. So this world is not so bad. And being able to take a vacation in your vision of a perfect world is fun too. And you may find that when things get a little burdensome in this reality, you can choose another. You can be in that other space. You can relax, because in that moment, there's nothing wrong. In that moment, you're having fun. You look exactly as you would envision yourself and imagine yourself looking. Maybe you want to be 10 years old again. Maybe you want to be an elder and look out over life and see everything that you would like to see your life and grandchildren and all of those things that maybe being an elder would mean for you. Retirement, relaxation, sitting in the warm sun, not worrying about anything. You can imagine anything you want. You can have anything you want in that world. And if you're willing to focus and do the work, there may be a way for you to bring the imagination and reality into being one. It's up to you. I know you can do it. And in the meantime, clouds. See if you can find the castles and the dragons and the spaceships. Listen to the ocean and imagine yourself on a ship sailing with the wind in your face and following a star, letting that guide you. Imagine yourself a famous actor or actress. Imagine that you're floating in space and you see the entire universe laid out before you. You can imagine anything you want. Let it ease you for just a few minutes, just a little bit every day. If you haven't imagined in a long time, you're about due to start again. It's like riding a bicycle. You don't forget. You just have to get used to it again to remember the mechanics. And you can make it whatever you want and be in that reality. Sometimes it's a little bit better to take little vacations from your worries than to let them overwhelm you and try to struggle through. I mean, you can, but is that really the gentlest way you can be with yourself? Give yourself a break. Use your imagination. And you never know. Imagination may lead to an amazing new reality. So, I want to thank you for joining me. And I want to thank you for listening in. And we're coming up on our first 1,000 views. And I'm so excited about that. And if you like it, then you can click the like button. You can subscribe. And when you subscribe, you can click, there's a little bell that comes up. You click the little bell, and that will send you notifications when I'm posting a new video, which I live stream every Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that you have a wonderful day, great imaginings. And if you want to connect on Facebook, you can go to Medicine Walk with Dr. Ayleen and join the group. And so we post stuff there too. So until next time, I wish you balance and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you.